We do have to start with the NBA draft because we've been waiting for this for so long. Jonah, I'm going to toss it to you first. Just anticipation, excitement tonight. What are you looking forward to? What's your hope for this evening?
For me, it's like Christmas Day or Christmas night. We finally get to kind of see where these guys slot in and who's going to make a difference for the teams next year. For me and the Mavericks, though, it's I just keep coming back to they really shot themselves in the foot at the tail end of last season. They could have put themselves in such better position to draft, maybe somebody who can come in and make an immediate impact and a long-term impact. And so now they're going to have to decide based on the roster construction who makes the most sense for them moving forward. And I do think because this is a totally new regime, that they're not going to go for somebody that can maybe be the most NBA ready tomorrow, but somebody who has the highest ceiling, somebody who could be Cooper Flag's running mate for the next 10 years. And if that means maybe a year of acclimation to kind of really see what the NBA, how to adapt to the NBA, then so be it. Because I think their timeline is in sync with Cooper's. The only difference is it's not in sync with Kyrie Irving's. And that is going to be the one topic that kind of looms over the Mavs probably over the next year, maybe half year, just because Kyrie is getting up there in age. He's seeking a championship. The Mavs might not be ready to compete for championships in a year, but they can come close. They can get better tonight in the NBA draft because this is a loaded draft class in terms of depth. They should be able to find a couple of rotational pieces in the first round.
So I do want to ask Sean, as the guy with experience with Indiana, what's it like seeing Dusty May, who himself is from Indiana, get the job? And what's your kind of mindset now, seeing him be involved with this front office heading into the NBA draft one day later?
Well, as an Indiana fan, I was hoping that at some point he would end up in Indiana coaching for the Hoosiers. So it's disappointing in that regard of him not knowing that he's not going to be there.
Not enough to have the best football team in the NCAA.
No, we're greedy. We're greedy. Basketball is our roots. We're a basketball state, so we got to get back on the basketball hilltop. But it's exciting to see him having the success he's had, especially now that he's going to be down here paired with in a way, paired with another Hoosier, Mark Cuban. There, I'm sure he's excited to have a fellow Hoosier.
I think he said as much the other day. But it seems like they're invading all sports these days. Just whether it's NIL, whether it's Impact, it's kind of fascinating. But still, what's your take on the NBA draft tonight? What's got your attention?
I think Jonah said this a little earlier today, but I'm excited to actually see who goes where. Everybody can prognosticate and guess and make these predictions, but it's nice that tonight we can finally stop guessing. People can, and you never know how it's going to fall. It seems like those top 3 or 4 guys are going to go in a particular order. At least you can flip one here and there, but it seems like those top 4, it sounds like are pretty set in stone. But beyond that, after you get through those, it's a talented class, and it's just a mix of what team feels what need fits where. And obviously, as Jonas said, the Mavs, it would be nice to get that running mate for Cooper in that guard position, especially since Kyrie is aging and the Mavs are looking for that long-term sustainable success. So I'm just excited to actually see it come to fruition so we can stop guessing.
Seriously. Speaking of Wisconsin, though, because we obviously bring that up, Giannis leaving the Bucks was obviously a huge storyline this morning. And I'm curious, Jonah, looking at this draft, and granted, it's still early in the process, but is there any potential for the Mavs to make a move, do you think, before this? Or are they going to wait, pick, and then decide what happens maybe midway through the season with regards to some of the older guys on the roster?
Yeah, I think your guess is as good as mine. I think we got to get into the draft, sort of like the NFL draft. Sometimes you just need a few picks to go off the board to kind of activate, potential trade scenarios. I think all of that's certainly on the table. Because again, I mean, this front office is not really tied to anybody on the roster long term outside of maybe Cooper Flagg. I mean, this is a situation where nothing would really surprise me. Because they've got to do sort of I don't know if it's a complete overhaul, because there are enough pieces the Mavs have right now that would be good complementary pieces. But they do need to make this draft as impactful as possible because they don't have the draft capital that they really need for the next handful of years. And so nailing their first round. I come back to this. I do think they need to hold on to their first first round picks this year, because they need to really hit both of them. Then again, in a trade scenario, it could be enticing if there's somebody available. Again, it comes down to how do the players slot after number 4, and if somebody starts to fall that they like, then they should go after him in a trade scenario. But I just see this team taking the best player available. They're not really in a position where they have to take a need. They have to get the best players possible on this roster.
So the name that keeps popping up in all the mock drafts that I've been seeing, and granted, that means less than nothing heading into tonight in a lot of ways, with the front office we're still learning a lot about. But everyone seems to want and see Braden Burries going to the Mavs, and I'm just curious, Jonah, if that does happen, is that a win?
Ooh.
That's not exactly a glowing endorsement.
Because, listen, I'm adding my own personal analysis, and I don't work in the Mavs front office, so my opinion on this doesn't really matter. I'm not as sold on Braden Burries as a bunch of other people are, and all the mock draft people are. I think he's an interesting young player, but I think there are other ones that I prefer. Let me put it that way. I prefer other players. I don't think it's a knock. But if he's the selection, I don't think that's worth crying about, especially if you're a Mavs fan, because what he showed, especially toward the end of the season last year and in the tournament, you saw a guy who got used to the college game, started to kind of find his rhythm, and if he's able to do that at an NBA level, then it's enticing. And look no further than guys like Dylan Harper. I mean, guys who were taken with a little bit of a raw projection, and then all of a sudden by the postseason, they're the team's second best player. So I think that's ultimately what the Mavs are hoping to find, even if it's not at pick number 2, but later or closer to the tail end of the lottery.
Okay, I'll open it up to both of you guys on this one. Who, if it's not Burries, who would you want? Who is the guy? And Jonah, you can start off here if you want, or Sean. I'm not sure how much you're juggling some mock drafts over there yourself, but I'm just curious. What is the name that pops out most right now to try and energize a fan base and sit there and say, "Hey, we got a lot of value out of 9."
Don't steal mine, Jonah.
I think in a perfect world, somebody like Keaton Wagler falls to them. It's possible. We've kind of gone back and forth on him because he was a stud in the tournament. The thing is, he just didn't have the pedigree. He came sort of out of nowhere from high school into college and then just exploded. And so there's not really a large enough sample size to judge him on. Whereas personally, I am a huge fan of LeBaron Filan from Alabama. I've slammed the table to Kelly's chagrin. Really for the last month now. That
you're at your house, you can slam that table as much as you'd like, sir.
Listen, if the Mavs take LeBaron Filan, I'm going big time stuff. I'll tell you what, that would be fantastic. The only thing is, they might be able to trade down and take him. So it really becomes a battle of the value at that pick. And if they're able to do that, that would be a victory. In my equation here, it would be if the Mavs can trade down, take Filan, maybe add a pick, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that might be a smart move because, as Jonah was saying earlier, the future draft capital. As we've stated, many people have stated, this is a deep draft class, and there may be several teams ahead of the Mavs. There's not several, but the handful of teams that are ahead of the Mavs may not feel like if the Mavs are wanting to go in a guard direction, those teams ahead of them may not want to take one of those guards. So if the Mavs see one of those guys slipping, maybe if they can move down a few spots, get some more draft capital, it might be helpful. But I think Darius Acuff from Arkansas, he's a shooter, and in today's NBA, being able to shoot and move quickly, I think is a very good thing to have. It's a good problem to have good shooters. I know the one knock he's had is that he needs to work on defending. Obviously, the Mavs leadership is different, but we know that the old brass was we got rid of our guy because he didn't defend. So if they're wanting that full package, I don't know if they go a different direction. But if you want scoring, you want to move quick, you want youth, I like Darius Acuff because he can shoot the three. Whether he can maintain that plus 40% clip at the NBA level remains to be seen, but he's just a very pure and talented scorer.
Jonah, you want in on this?
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning here. Defense is going to be a massive emphasis with this Mavericks team. Dusty May, that's really what he employed at Michigan. Granted, he had the guys to do it, but Michigan was the number one defense in college basketball last season. Masai Ujiri, the teams he built with the Raptors, it was very predicated on defense and length. Bringing in Kawhi and the drafting of OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, guys who are kind of in that rangy 6'7" range, who can actually really develop into strong offensive players. And so that's sort of his MO to some degree. Granted, I think Masai also took Grady Dick. So it's not always a perfect 100% hit rate with the draft picks. But, ultimately, I think they're looking for somebody who can be an impact rotational player defensively for sure, and then hopefully, graduate their offensive game. Who that is, I'm not quite sure, because everyone we're sort of seeing in that 8 to 12 range is really just like an offensive threat outside of Flemings from Houston, who's more of a defensive first guard. But his offense, seems to be lacking pretty strongly in some ways. So, again, we can go around the carousel 100 times on each different player, and this is kind of what we've been doing for the last month. And listen, it's why it's like we come back to this how we started the show. I'm just excited for the finality because listen, I know like all the websites love the clicks and engagement on mock drafts. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to look at, but if you cover the team, you really just want to hit the fast forward, hurry up button to the end of draft night, so you can kind of know what this team's going to look like for next season.
So we were here a couple of weeks ago, and we actually did a whole segment on the fact that the Mavs had not named their new head coach yet, and wondering like what does the draft look like if they don't have a head coach named. And yes, I know technically now they do, but it was literally yesterday. The draft is tonight, and he's not even here.
Right. I mean, he literally had a camp in Michigan going on this week where people were tweeting, bad day to be a camp counselor up there at the Chrysler Center.
So this is my question now to Jonah and to Giggy, because I know this much about basketball. Does it mean anything that he's not here and is not having a say in what they do?
I don't think so. I don't think it's that big of a deal, because ultimately the roster construction comes down to Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz. And that's sort of the hierarchy, or the way hierarchy should be in front offices. Is the front office goes out and gets the player personnel, and then the coach coaches them. Now, Dusty May, I'm sure, has probably shared some input with those guys throughout the interview process, considering he's coached a couple of guys that are expected to go somewhere in the lottery range and faced a bunch of guys that are going to go in the lottery range. So his intel is probably important here, especially if they're pulling him from Michigan. They would value his input on some of these draft picks. But Masai Ujiri, he waited more than a month to hire Dusty May after parting ways with Jason Kidd. Going back to his time in Toronto, he had done this twice before and been very deliberate. He had taken, I think it was at least over a month on both of his hires with the Raptors.
Yep.
And so this is not out of the norm for him. It might be for other teams, but for Masai specifically, taking multiple weeks to find the right person or find the person that he wants, this has become a common theme now, as him operating in terms of head of basketball operations. And so the Raptors won a title with this type of operation. And so, again, it's not a Warriors dynasty type of operation, but he's at least climbed the mountaintop with, how he's done things. And so I think we need to give him, I think he and Schmitz and Dusty May kind of deserve kind of a clean sheet. And if they want to take a month and hire somebody on the eve of the draft, so be it.
And I agree with Jonah to an extent. Obviously, Masai Ujiri had big hits in the past, and he's built successful teams, and this is a business. Those front office execs have to make these decisions that they feel like fit for the team, that make sense financially, things like that. But I'm going to go back to my Indiana roots here. Not just Dusty May, but Curt Cignetti. I know this is not college. Obviously, it's a different ball game. But just that man has complete control over that Indiana football roster. And you look at what he did. I mean, they made the playoff in his first year, from the worst team in college football history to making the playoff, and in year 2 winning a championship. And it's him. He decides who he wants on that roster. He decides who's playing, who fits, whose character. And it doesn't concern me that Dusty May's not here, but I think it would be important to make sure that he at least has his stamp, his input, and I'm sure they will. But to what extent, I don't know, because he hasn't had that much time to be a part of this organization yet. But I think it's important that that's the guy, and these players, of course, but that's the guy that's going to lead you to the mountaintop if you're going to get there. And he needs to have what he needs to make it happen. So I feel like having Dusty May's input is vital.
And that's kind of the question in terms of transitioning from the college ranks to the pros, is like you have all of this control, and by all accounts, now you are part of a triumvirate. You are part of a team, or at least whether or not it's triumvirate or like a larger corporate model that the Mavs seem to be building behind the scenes. Like, the point being is you are not going to be the sole arbiter. And that was kind of the question with what Jason Kidd wanted if he was going to stick around, was he wanted that team president role to kind of buy the groceries and build the team that he wanted. And it's interesting to me, the reports that the Mavs were trying to go after Jon Scheyer at Duke, and he said no, because I'm assuming it's probably the same thing, Jonah, where it's like, hey man, and I understand Duke has the pedigree that you want to stay there, but at the same token, it's like he has total control at Duke. He can go out and get the players that he wants. Dusty's now moving on from that to a place where he basically gets handed what he's hoping that he gets handed the tools that he will succeed with, but it is still part of a conversation, not a decision.
Yeah, I mean, to Giggy's point, like, this is not a Curt Cignetti situation, because that doesn't really exist in the NBA unless you win a lot. Like, if you win multiple titles and kind of assert yourself atop, the NBA's mountaintop, then you get far more, say in decisions regarding personnel and all that. But Dusty May has never coached a single game in the NBA in his entire life. So I don't really see how a team can hire him and then all of a sudden be like, hey, we're going to let you have this massive voice when it comes to bringing in NBA players. I don't know if I go to the extent of it's, stay in your lane, know yours, we know ours kind of thing. But this is very new for Dusty May. This is going to be, while he's been a coach for a while, being an NBA coach is different. And not many have made the transition successfully from college to the NBA. And so I just don't think it would be wise for the Mavericks to do that, bring in this first-time NBA head coach, and then also load him up with the responsibility of trying to bring in the right personnel. He might not know what the right personnel looks like from an NBA level. And so that's why you lean on somebody like Musai, who's done this for decades, and then you just trust the coach that he's able to get the most out of the players on the court.
And not to bring in any bad luck or mojo, but yeah, that jump from college to the NBA, I don't know if he's the last guy to do it, but I know John Beilein, coming from Michigan, did not
wasn't quite the welcome mat.
Did not have quite a good transition there. Hopefully
Jonah's face
do we want
telling the story.
Do we want to go down the list? Because it's a sad list of guys.
There are two examples where it's been successful in the last decade plus.
I'm
Like,
just
successful
hoping that this
is in
Michigan
hard quotes there too.
right?
Like,
No,
it's barely
successful is in above
successful.
500. Like, that's kind of where it is.
Yeah.
So no, all eyes will be on Brooklyn
Hey,
tonight.
that's
No.
how the Rangers define success.
Come on,
It's barely
now.
above 500.
Come on now.